As you know, we've been told for years to watch our salt intake, but now a new study is shaking things up. It finds that eating less salt does lower blood pressure, but it does not reduce the risk of having heart disease. So what is the takeaway from this study? Here now is Dr. Ernest Petty, Senior Attending Physician of Emergency Medicine at New York's St. Barnabas Hospital. Doctor, thanks for being here. So we've always heard that you're supposed to reduce your salt intake. That makes you healthier. What do you make of this new study?
Well, you have to look at a number of factors. Decreasing your salt intake definitely lowers your risk of high blood pressure. And there's a direct correlation between high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease. The problem with the studies that they crunched the data from was that the participants only decreased their salt intake by a moderate amount or a very slight amount. You know, in the long run, we as Americans consume way too much salt.
Yeah, the interesting thing about this study is that they basically crunched the data from 7 studies together. This was out of the University of Exeter. 6,500 participants did reduce their salt intake, as you say, only by a moderate amount, but then they found out that it didn't translate into better cardiovascular health. Why that disconnect?
Well, we're not certain that how much salt they had in the initial, part of the, before they participated in this study. Maybe they only decreased their salt intake by 15 or 20%. Most Americans have double the amount of salt in their diet. I'll use Americans because we're American ourselves. So if we could decrease that by a significant amount, we might see better results in the studies.
I know you've brought in some salt with you. This is a very large salt shaker.
It's a very large salt shaker.
Is there a better kind of salt that we should have? There's sea salt versus other kinds of salt.
No. Basically, what we should remember is, 80% of the salt we consume is in food that we already eat. So you don't need to add any more salt on your diet. There's salt shakers wherever we go. They always offer it as a condiment. It was used for many years as a preservative. The problem with salt, though, is our taste buds get used to it and we crave it. We like it. We slowly have to decrease that. It really will contribute to decreasing high blood pressure. And 67% of Americans over the age of 60 suffer from high blood pressure, hypertension, which leads to cardiovascular disease down the road.
All right, so you should still concentrate on lowering the salt, it sounds like.
Oh, that's my advice. Definitely have to cut it out of your diet. Do not add extra salt to anything.
Good to know. Dr. Ernest Petty, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
John?